ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयम् उदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकीम्। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकीनन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। I think it is 14. I wrongly opened the verse. We are reading from Canto 1, Chapter 11, Text 14. Sammarjita Mahamarga Rathyapanakachatvaram Shiktam Gandhajalair Uktam Falapushpa Kshatankurai. Sammarjita Mahamarga Rathyapanakachatvaram Shiktam Gandhajalair Uktam Falapushpa Kshanankurai. Kshatanankurai. Sammarjita Mahamarga Rathyapanakachatvaram Shiktam Gandhajalair Uktam Falapushpa Kshatanankurai. Reading word for word translation. Sammarjita, thoroughly cleansed. Mahamarga, highways. Rathya, lanes and subways. Apanaka, shopping marketplaces. Chatvaram, public meeting places. Siktam, moistened with. Gandhajalai, scented water. Upatam, was strewn with. Phala, fruits. Pushpa, flowers. Akshata, unbroken. Ankurai, seeds. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. The highways, subways, lanes, markets, and public meeting places were all thoroughly cleansed and then moistened with scented water. And to welcome the Lord, fruits, flowers, and unbroken seeds were strewn everywhere. Purport. Scented waters prepared by distilling flowers like rose and kiora were requisitioned to wet the roads, streets, and lanes of Dwaraka Dham. Such places, along with the marketplace and public meeting places, were thoroughly cleansed. From the above description, it appears that the city of Dwaraka Dham was considerably big, containing many highways, streets, and public meeting places with parks, gardens, and reservoirs of water, all very nicely decorated with flowers and fruits. And to welcome the Lord, such flowers and fruits were with unbroken seeds of grain were also strewn over the public places. Unbroken seeds of grain or fruits in the seedling stage were considered auspicious, and they are still so used by Hindus in general on festival days. Om Jnanatimidandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesa Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनीति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशधारिणे मूकं करोति वाचालं कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरो देवता हरे कृष्ण हरे कृष्ण first of all I seek forgiveness for making it late. I think I was almost 10 minutes late. Actually, I totally missed that it is today my turn to read, and I'm sorry about that. But anyways, so let us get into the verse. So in this verse, it is described about how the lanes and highways and public meeting places in Dwarka were decorated to invite the Lord. When Lord Krishna was coming back to Dwarka, the whole section is described about that. Describing how Dwarkavasis are actually welcoming the Lord back to their own place. So here it is described about the highways and subways and lanes and all these different places, how they are thoroughly cleansed and decorated. So in this whole section, we see different arrangements being done. In one of the previous verses, we also saw how Prabhupada spoke about there is no need of factories and so many other artificial things to live a happy life. Although we see in this verse that it's not that people were living like aborigines, they are actually having so many facilities in the city of Dwaraka. So there are highways and there are lanes and markets and meeting places and all these things. They are all present in the city of Dwarka. So, so the whole point is like how we are inviting Lord into our hearts. So there are different descriptions given in the entire Srimad Bhagavatam about Krishna's arrival at various places. Like we see in the 10th canto, Krishna is arriving in Mathura and how people are looking at him depending on their particular rasa. So similarly, we see Krishna leaving Hastinapura in the previous section. We have seen that. So these are some of the pastimes where Krishna leaves one place and goes to another place. Like we also see how Krishna was leaving the place of Rukmi after kidnapping Rukmini. So and then coming to his kingdom with Rukmini. So there are many descriptions of how Krishna actually enters into various places and leaves different places. This actually signifies how we can invite Krishna into our heart also. Here there are so many auspicious things which are given, which actually are done by Dwarkavasis to invite Krishna, right? So here there is this description of welcome the Lord. And to welcome the Lord, fruits, flowers, and unbroken seeds were strewn everywhere. So this is one kind of auspicious thing, and the places of public meeting and all these things are thoroughly cleansed and moist and with scented waters. This is another kind of auspicious sign that people used to follow. Even today, people follow these things at different places in India. Here I don't know how much they follow, but traditionally people would clean the place with water mixed with cow dung, and then put this beautiful rangoli. We can see that in Jagannath Puri, they to invite the Lord on the Ratha cart, they put huge rangolis on the road. The same way in households also, people actually put huge rangolis. I remember in my childhood, there used to be my aunt and other people, they used to actually decorate the road, and they used to have competitions like with the neighbors whose rangoli will be big. Like my aunt used to cover from this end of the road to the other end, and it would take almost like 2, 3, 4 hours sometimes. And as children, we were also sitting next to them and looking at all these things. Nowadays, in those days when people used to put these big rangolis, and those who travel on the road, like, somebody who comes on a bicycle, or some, one who is walking and going, there were no big motorbikes and all those things, at least in the place where I was living. So they used to respect, and they would go from the side. They would not just step on the rangoli. Today, if we place so much big rangolis on the road, people will start complaining, how can you occupy the entire road? So things have changed a lot, but the whole point is, like, that culture, which actually helps us invite the Lord, has been followed throughout so many generations. Actually, that is what is being shown in the city of Dwarka also. So one must remember that Dwarka Dham is created by Krishna, at the time of when, Jarasandha and Kalayavana, they attacked Mathura city. At that time, Krishna created this Dwaraka, so that, inside the ocean, so that, people can only come and go from, through one way, instead of attacking from different sides. So, uh, so now, after creating that Dwarka Dham, Krishna gave it to Dwarka Vasis, and we can see how they are maintaining that. So similarly, we also can compare this to how Lord creates this material world for protecting all of us, or, for providing all of us with a facility to, enjoy kind of separately from Him. But at the same time, it is our responsibility to keep it very, uh, very fit, or, to keep it fit for inviting the Lord, or keeping the Lord here itself, kind of, because devotees actually worship Lord in such a way that Lord never wants to leave the devotees. So that should be the spirit in which one should maintain God-given gifts. These are all God-given gifts, actually, like, nice, good, and good surroundings, good environment, nice lakes, beautiful ponds. These are all, I mean, sometimes man can create to certain extent, but those natural ones are always very, they actually are helping the nature. In fact, in the prayers of Queen Kunti also, we see the description given by Kunti Maharani, that because Krishna is walking on the land, there are all these, auspicious signs are there on the ground, Krishna's feet. And then also we see about how Kunti Maharani speaks about the prosperity that is happening everywhere in the world, just because of Krishna's presence. Even there, Prabhupada writes about, factories, mills, and all these things. They are not required. Here also, Prabhupada writes in the same tone, actually, in a few verses before. So the whole thing is, like, when man depends on the nature, and he cherishes the gifts of the nature, it is possible to create prosperity. Like, we also see the section of Srimad Bhagavatam, where in Vrindavan Dham it is described that, people were celebrating in Bhagavatam, and also some of the literatures of the Goswamis. The mention of, how they used to throw curd mixed with turmeric is thrown on each other as a festival participation. So Prabhupada there also writes that, Vrindavan Vasis, they were not poor people; they were extremely rich. But, in those days, or in that culture, a whole community's richness, or whole community's prosperity, is totally dependent on cows and bulls, and, many other God-given gifts in the farms and all those things. Today, we unfortunately consider that all the factories and big manufacturing units, these are actually, our prosperity, we consider like that. And somehow modern man, somehow, with all his intelligence, is trying to keep God aside, keep God out of the center, and he wants to be in the center. So naturally, this is what happens. So when we want to push God away from the center, it is to say indirectly that I want to be in the center. And when we want to be in the center, everyone can be wanting to be in the center. If God is one, because God is one, if he is in the center, there can be so many things around him. But everyone in this world wants to be in the center of the whole universe actually. And because of that, there are so many clashes which are happening everywhere. So our definition of prosperity itself is not according to the Vedic system in today's society. So we have defined it saying that we want to go away from nature, away from God. We don't care what will happen to our future generations. We don't want to care what happens to our present generation. We don't even care what happens to the environment. We simply care about how much is my pocket filled. So that is today's definition of prosperity. And some few people who are able to exploit the resources of nature effectively, they are termed as rich people, or they tend to become rich people in today's society. And everyone else will be working to make those people rich, isn't it? We are all working. Most of our devotees are grihasthas. We don't have any, except a few. There are no resident devotees in our temple, and they are totally dedicated their lives for Krishna service. Apart from that, all of us are working for some company or the other. And what are we doing basically? So in one of the lectures which I was hearing previously, uh, this devotee was mentioning that what is your use of 30 days job? It is simply working hard to transfer money from one account to another account. That's all. So of course it is needed because the society is going in a particular direction, and we want to maintain our bodies, we want to maintain our families and all these things. So that is why we are just living according to the norms set by the society in one sense. Otherwise these are not needed. So as Prabhupada says, 1 acre land and a cow, which is milking cow, those two are sufficient for a person to live happily in this world, right? But then we have created artificially so many things in this world which are not at all needed actually. But still we keep working hard, thinking that without me working in this particular position, nothing can move. Like I remember the story of one dung roller. Roller is a kind of insect. I don't remember if I already spoke this some time back, but I'll just repeat this. So these dung rollers are kind of insects which are found in the forest. They are big insects actually. As soon as the dung roller takes birth, as the name suggests, what it does is rolls the dung of different animals. As soon as he found some fresh dung, he just runs there and starts making it into small spears and keep it in a line. So and dung roller becomes happy whenever some animal passes stool, because he thinks that yes, my job is starting now. And he enthusiastically keeps rolling so many spears and keeping them one aside the other. So, and then when big animals like elephant and other animals are there, and when they pass stool, I was reading recently in one of my son's, book, that an elephant passes around 75 pounds of dung every day. So it's like a huge quantity, and dung roller is extremely happy, thinking that, oh yeah, now I got my job. And as if somebody is paying him the salary, he keeps rolling this dung and keeping it in small spears everywhere. And this is the job of dung roller actually. And he thinks that without me the whole forest will stop functioning. Yeah. So one day this dung roller was rolling the dung, and suddenly one elephant appeared there, and it passed some dung on the head of the dung roller, and that's the end of the story of the dung roller. So we also keep thinking many times that without uh, my contribution in this particular way to the society, this society can't function. Of course, we have created such a complicated system today that it is irreversibly complicated actually. Even though today most of us want to go back to the Vedic style of living, it's not possible, right? It's not possible. It's At least it requires a tremendous amount of renunciation. That's how this has become. Those things which are supposed to be natural have become a great austerity today, right? So that is when we go away from nature, we go away from the fine-tuned sentiments of the society at large and people in at an individual level. And when these sentiments are lost, we are no better than zombies, some kind of robots working for the purpose of what we are. Some order is given and you keep working for that. So that is how the whole society has become. And then when society goes to that level, and these fine-tuned practices, like here we read about throwing uh, uh, unbroken rice particles, as a sign of auspiciousness. When someone does that with our kind of consciousness, because it is already totally polluted, we start thinking like, hey, what is the use of this? It may not be needed. It is just a sentiment, you know. So that is how the whole society is looking at Vedic culture today at large. Everyone starts thinking that why do we have to do all these things? But actually these are suggested as a signs of auspiciousness, and it can be very very much verified even today. And these things are verifiable, not only today, but it was in the past, and it will also be in the future. We may not be able to understand why certain things are spoken in the scriptures. That is why um, scriptures are considered to be axiomatic truths. Mm. So we may not be able to, our capacity, we may not have enough capacity to understand whatever is spoken in the scriptures, but then it is spoken for the well-being of the society. And that we can see, many places in the scriptures, which are practically applicable even today. They give great benefit, and the modern man is also looking towards that, but of course with a wrong intention. Of course, for example, look at yoga and pranayama. Today we have something called International Yoga Day, right? On June 21st or something. The whole world has agreed to understand the importance of yoga, and many people also practice. But then again, we have such a perverted consciousness at the society level, that we want to think everything in terms of my benefit, right? Aham mameti. And because of that kind of consciousness, we have a potential to pollute any kind of Vedic tradition, right? With our consciousness. Although Vedic traditions, Vedic systems are placed for, so that everyone can get elevated, we actually pollute the whole thing with our wrong consciousness. And what we start thinking is, oh, this is not giving me so much benefit, or oh, this is meant for my own enjoyment. Like most of the people who are practicing yoga and pranayama, they simply want their body to be fit. They don't think about yoga, especially means that we are linking ourselves to the Supreme Lord. This kind of consciousness is totally lacking. And if we do anything with that kind of, what to say, separated consciousness, separated in the sense separated from the Lord, with a consciousness that is separated from the service of the Lord, obviously even those Vedic traditions will give minimal result actually. And that's what we observe. And then people start criticizing, oh, these systems which are spoken in Vedas, they are useless actually. They are simply some kind of blind faith. People simply follow for the sake of following, otherwise they are useless. So it has come to such a level. Like Prabhupada, many places he gives the example of modern scientists did not understand uh, the value of cow dung. Although stool is considered very impure, but cow dung is considered to be very pure. So that's what Prabhupada says. And for that, scientists took so many decades or maybe centuries to understand that fact, right? So in fact, science is actually not, many times we also feel like, okay, now it is accepted by science. That means it is, some statement of Vedas is accepted by science, and that means, okay, now science is validating Vedas. But the fact is, science is only validating itself against the Vedas. Vedas never change. Whereas science keeps changing. Science understanding keeps changing, right? And because of that, science boasts itself, saying that, okay, now we have found out a new truth. So in the words of Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was said that, like, yesterday we thought something is right, and today we understood it is wrong. And that is advancement of science. That means immediately Prabhupada said, that means you are a fool till yesterday, and today you think that you know something, but tomorrow it may be proved that you are again a fool, right? So these systems which are totally changing, continuously changing, and when we are basing our lifestyle on that, so that is actually creating a lot of chaos. So we do not understand. Like today, everyone is accepting certain things are right, and then immediately tomorrow they say, "Oh, sorry, please, stop doing that, because now we understood that there are so many complications." And whole life has become like a wild experiment. So when the whole life we spend our life's energy on simply trying to adjust things which are supposed to be just very easy and simple, we simply spend our whole life in that, we are left with very little energy to actually understand the purpose of our existence. So here in this series of verses, we can clearly see how Dwarkavasis, although they have all the opulence, they were living very simple lifestyle. They are dependent on nature. That is spoken in third chapter of Bhagavad Gita also. Krishna says that, I don't remember the verse exactly right now, but Krishna clearly says that humans and demigods, you both live in a cooperative spirit. That is what is Krishna's mission, to create cooperation, right? We see in the entire natural way of living, it's all cooperation between different individuals, isn't it? Humans are cooperating with demigods. That is the shloka spoken by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita third chapter. Similarly, if we see, there are so many other kinds of systems which are there, which help us cooperate with other living entities. Like, we take care of cows, and cows give us milk. So similarly, we take care of land, and the land gives us grains. So there is cooperation. We give something and we receive something, right? So in this way, we are actually dependent on nature. We are actually dependent on Krishna's nature, and many gifts are given. But unfortunately, when man wanted to become independent, uh, that is when the whole problem started. Now man started thinking, why should I depend on rain? Let me create artificial rains. So there was an article by His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. It was long back, I think in 2011-12, that time. He wrote an article when India was, trying to create these artificial rains, induce artificial clouds and rains by injecting something called silver nitrate or something, and creating artificial clouds. So at that time, Chaitanya Charan Prabhu wrote an article named "Artificial Rains, Imaginary Gains, Real Pains." So this article actually clearly outlines how we are trying to leave the natural procedures and focus on some things because of our wanting to be totally independent, right? So recently I was reading about this project called Artificial Sun. I think in China and Korea they are working very hard on this. This is the name is a misnomer. Actually, it's a big nuclear reactor which is supposed to, or which they are creating, so that it provides so much energy to people in this world. So their intention may be good, but then the way they are acting is totally dead against the natural ways of living, and that causes so much anxiety, that causes so much of difficulty for not only us, for all future generations also. Like, for example, we see the Bhopal gas tragedy, or we see the Hiroshima Nagasaki issues. People are still suffering because of that. Correct. So these are all because man wanted to create something without the cooperation of nature. So Krishna's mission is to establish cooperation in this whole universe, right? So that people remain humble, they have simple living and high thinking. So if you cooperate, you can easily get things. Like, for example, you cooperate with cows, you can easily get milk. You don't have to maintain a huge factory where you start even though people are not able to create artificial milk, maybe even in the future if they want to. So at that time they will have to maintain huge factories just to create something which is naturally available everywhere, right? Now they kill cows and think that, okay, cow is my food, and then the milk which is coming from the cow I can produce artificially. So this is the kind of scientific advancement which is going on everywhere. Spoil the natural resource from which it is easily available, any kind of resource. Spoil that totally, and then create something artificially and say that, okay, we replace that and there is no need of that, as if we are the deciding authority of the whole planet. Hmm. We don't think that we are the part of this planet. We think that we are the CEO or the owner of this planet, and that is where all the problem starts from, right? So this is happening in the field of in the name of modern advancement today. Is it not true? we consider one of the resources, like it is producing. The best example is cow and milk, right? Now, if there is an alternative like artificial milk, which is not available right now, maybe in future it will be available. Of course, people are doing so many crazy things with milk. It is not, I mean, the milk which we get is not like a plain pure, directly taken from cow and given it to us. No, there are so many procedures they do. They say homogenized, double pasteurized. Now, what does it mean? One doctor devotee from India, with whom I was associating for some time, he explained what is this homogenization, double pasteurization. They use this big terminology. So so the whole process, he explained that finally what you get is white water. It's not milk at all. And then they say zero fat, low fat, and 2% fat. So much control we want to do. I don't find any end to modern man's greed to control all the natural resources. We cannot just accept what nature is giving us happily. When we accept that, then our energy is actually can be utilized for purpose of pleasing Krishna. Otherwise, whole life goes in this only, right? There are like three types of energies which I remember hearing some time back. They are uh, uh, kriya shakti, jnana shakti, and dravya shakti. Dravya shakti is these are all Lord's energies only. So these are given to us. Dravya Shakti is nothing but our natural resources which are around us. And Jnana Shakti is our tendency or the potency by which we can actually, we all have that potency, we can understand the spiritual truths. And then there is Kriya Shakti, if I'm not wrong. I think that is the word. So Kriya Shakti is our tendency to act, our tendency to work. So that is the potency given to us. So now, if we use Kriya Shakti and Dravya Shakti together, then Jnana Shakti goes to the back seat, right? So if we use Kriya Shakti, that the tendency for me to act, that I use with natural resources, then we don't so much bother about how to actually practice spiritual life and progress our consciousness or elevate our consciousness and all these things. We simply start thinking about like a jiva is put along with some natural resources, and he starts exploiting those natural resources. And in the process of exploiting natural resources, he is actually bound by the material energy, right? So although material energy is inert, it has a capacity to bind us, and this body is nothing but a result of one such binding, isn't it? So we are bound in the trap of material energy. So when Kriya Shakti is used with Dravya Shakti without actually thinking about what is the purpose of it, then some stones and bricks are given to an engineer and he can make it a big building, right? Huge skyscraper building. He can do that. He can actually transform the shape of the stones, brick, mortar, and all these things into a big building. This is when Kriya Shakti and Dravya Shakti act together, right? But then when Kriya Shakti is directed towards Jnana Shakti, that is elevating, working in the direction to elevate our consciousness. That time what happens is our Dravya Shakti, our resources may be present everywhere, but we are not interested in creating a huge skyscraper. Imagine a devotee is given all these large amount of money. Either he will create a temple, or he will put a small kutir and use the rest of the money to publish print books and distribute all over, right? If it is given to a uh, to a to a materialistic person who doesn't have any inclination towards God consciousness, or he doesn't believe in the whole system, what he does, he thinks, okay, in terms of business, how much big building I can make, how many people I can rent it to, and how much money I can make, right? So this is how a person gets bound. And that is the reason Prabhupada many places he says simple living and high thinking. I still remember the statement of Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. I think I heard it a decade back, but it was a very profound statement. Prabhupada says simple living and high thinking. And what modern man is thinking, he thinks about simply living and hardly thinking. That's what Chaitanya Charan Prabhu says. It's a very profound statement. We simply live and we hardly think, actually. Uh, and we are working so hard to fill the pockets of somebody else. It's not that we have to immediately give up, but we have to understand that these are all like very very temporary artificial ways of living, where we actually we are not ready to cooperate with naturally existing things or natural resources. And that is when we actually start fighting to live in this world. That is what is called struggle for existence, right? Of course, struggle for existence was very simple in the olden days compared to what it is today. Today, if we have to exist, we have to get a job, because we, at the society level, we decided that okay, this something called this currency decides my future, right? So that is, in the olden days, that was not the case. If money is not there, it's okay, there is barter system. Whatever I have, I give to somebody else, and what they have, they give me also something. And I'm never thinking about okay, I should keep thinking about I should save something for my future and future and future generations, 30 generations in the future. So that concept was not there. Mm. So when such concept was not there, obviously we start thinking about who are there around us, right? Today we don't think about people who are around us. We simply think about okay, my generation and their generation and their generation and their generation. I want to keep save so much for all of them. And it is not that even devotees are doing that, but of course they are not doing it out of their desire, but they don't have any other choice, being the part of the society, isn't it? They don't have any other choice. So that is why it is important for us to, at least at an individual level, create a harmony with ourselves. What does it mean by creating harmony with ourselves? At least we take a pledge of living a simple life. If that is not the case, when we just go ahead with what the modern man is thinking about as the advancement, then we are inviting trouble into our lives, right? Because we are using kriya shakti with dravya shakti, and our jnana shakti goes to the back seat. We don't cultivate any spiritual, we don't tend to cultivate, or we lose the potential to cultivate, actually, because all our energy is simply taken by uh, by the by the dravya shakti. Hmm? So these are some of the thoughts I was thinking to share. So how this is connected to this verse, as here we see that when Krishna was coming into Dwarka, there are all these natural, um, I mean, people are cleaning the whole place and decorating the whole place with so many natural resources. And this is just to welcome Krishna. And Krishna is not saying that okay, create so many factories, then I will be very happy, I will be pleased and coming there. Prabhupada used to say that this factory culture is hellish, actually. And we can see that also. You go to any big factory plant, uh, I remember my uncle was working in a sugar factory. Those days it was like an excitement to go into sugar factory, but once we went there, it was like, all these chemicals and smell and all that. It was like, it was nauseatic feeling, and it was terrible, actually. I asked my uncle, how do you people live here, from morning to evening? It's so terrible there. And such kind of things are, I mean, every factory is like that. Mm. So there are cement factories where people are given a big bulk of, big amount of jaggery every evening. These workers are given big some amount of jaggery every day, and they have to eat that as a protocol. And the reason for that is, when they are working in the cement factory, the cement is so fine that it just enters into your nostrils, in your mouth, and it just gets stuck in the throat, and which is dangerous. So what they do is, okay, eat this jaggery. It will create some kind of, thick saliva, which will drag all that cement particles into your digestive system, right? So these things are done in most of the factories and under the names of different protocols. As such things are not needed, but we have created a culture where we cannot just give them up also. So here, in this particular verse, we see how people are just dependent on natural things to, even to invite Lord, and Lord is very pleased. I mean, in the previous verses also we have seen throughout that, we don't find any unnatural things happening, like, or things that are happening against the prosperity given by the nature. Hmm. So today we totally
forget about nature being an entity. We simply think nature is meant to fill my pocket. And if we work with that consciousness, soon we will lose all the natural gifts given to us. We see that in the story of Prithu Maharaj, where nature stopped giving things because people were not responsible, right? So when we stop recognizing nature as an individual, and all the nature's gifts as gifts of God, that is when we start thinking like, everything is dependent on me. So from the Dwarkavasis, this is the lesson we need to learn, that we depend on nature, and we have to recognize our dependence on nature. That actually helps us. That actually creates an environment where we can actually focus on the spiritual progress. Otherwise, we simply spend our entire life in fixing things, right? We keep fixing things. Okay, water, this, that, electricity, so many things we have to keep fixing, and we don't have any energy left at the end of the whole life to think of Krishna. So if we want to think of Krishna, then we should start, as devotees at least, we should start living as simple as possible. Depend on the nature's gifts rather than trying to exploit. I know this is very difficult. I know it may be impossible also, but still we can try our best to simply depend on nature as much as possible. So those are some of my thoughts. If anyone has any comments, I'm really sorry. I don't know if I just blabbered something, but these are my thoughts for today. Thank you very much. Any questions, comments? I think it is 7:52. Still have 8 minutes.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. So, the natural resources is being exploited, as you said. Some reflections. Prabhupada comments, no factories. Yes, I understand. And now the living is without factory, nobody can live.
Yeah.
All right. So even if we say cement factory, forget about even for building, constructing a temple like Mayapur temple.
Yeah.
How do you think we can build a temple without cement factory? So my thought went in that way. So it's not that we don't need a factory. Of course, in this generation, everything is depending on manufacturing. So without that cement factory, people built in olden days. There was no, I don't know what cement but they were using, but they were all using it, and they did construct a big temple also.
Yeah.
But will the citizens of the world, will they agree? Can I do that? No, because it will take some own time.
Yeah.
They can, everything was constructed on rocks and mud and soil or something like that. So, but today's technology won't allow that.
Yes.
This is not safe, right? Even I was thinking my house in native place, it's built almost 150 years, 200 years ago, maybe 150 years. I'm thinking that's all built by kind of a mud and I don't think any cement in there in that house. But today's world is like that. So I don't know whether we can really comment that we don't need. It's kind of a thought, Prabhu. I'm just thinking. Any comments on that?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you for bringing that up. As I mentioned in my talk, also we have created an irreversible system where we cannot go back. We cannot live without these things. It is simply impossible in the today's society. I totally agree with that, and that is our misfortune, actually, in one sense. Actually speaking, again, these things are not needed. These are surely not needed, but we have created a system where we cannot live without that. So that is our great misfortune. So when we speak of temples, which are like Mayapur temple or any other temple, which is where there is this cement and all these things are needed. Yes, this is devotees' intelligence, where they are trying to collect those resources which are anyways being used by people for all kinds of useless purposes, right? That is, people are using them and they are available anyways. So why not glorify Krishna using those resources also? So that is the purpose with which, or the mood with which I think devotees are constructing all these temples, taking from Rupa Goswami or Sanatan Goswami, establishing those huge temples of Radha Madan Mohan and Radha Govinda. I'm sure obviously those, in those days, they must have been like, most magnificent temples. Today we see some broken pieces of these temples. Of course, even now they are very magnificent temples, huge ones. And obviously no human would have afforded to construct such things for their living purposes, because they are temples. They are so, they are made so gorgeously actually. So the whole point is devotees always intelligently think about how we can use the current resources which are available around us to glorify Krishna. Otherwise, like Prabhupada said, like, if you give me a hotel, I can happily live there. But if it is not available, I am happy even under a tree. So I think that should be the consciousness of every devotee, that we are happy. At least I am saying the consciousness. I'm not asking devotees to go and live under trees. I'm not doing that anyway, in my case also. But that spirit of simple living is very important. As I said, it may not be possible. You are also rightly pointing towards that only, Prabhu, that it's not possible. We are not asking devotees to actually uh, live without these factories and all these things. I totally agree that it's impossible. But then we can create that spirit within our heart, that as much as possible, I try to make my life so simple that I am left with so much energy to please Krishna. Otherwise, I spend all my energy in you know this is like, the whole month we consume things, and at the end of the month or beginning of month we end up paying for those things. And again, whole month we keep consuming things, and again we end up paying for those things. And what is happening in between is like, we are working hard to pay off those bills and all other things, isn't it? So where is, I mean, this is naturally happening everywhere. I mean, I don't call it naturally, but this is happening everywhere, isn't it? And it is not possible even for devotees to go away from this system. But at the same time, we can actually think of keeping our lives, i'm sorry I'm sorry, keeping our lives as simple as possible, so that we can focus on some higher truths of life, instead of just simply spending our whole life in these things. So that is my thought, Prabhu.
Yeah, I was thinking about the Govardhan Eco Village. So that model village has to be, it's coming up and people are appreciating. I think that's the way to go, so that we can
Yeah.
market, as I said, marketing is most important for us in how to have a simple living. That's the, now all the whole India is appreciating, whole, different parts of the countries are appreciating the way GEV, Govardhan Eco Village is going on, right? So I think that's the criteria. Slowly we have to do that.
Yes,
And
Prabhu.
there also everything is natural. It's
Yeah.
amazing. People are really appreciating now.
Yes.
So I was thinking about that program.
Yeah, that is true, Prabhu. Govardhan Eco Village is theoretically we can discuss so many things. Unless somebody shows us practically how to do that, we don't know. We don't have so much capacity to understand how things work. So in Govardhan Eco Village, they create these mud bricks which are like sun dried. Like we have sun dried dates, they have sun dried bricks. They don't use any furnace or kiln or all these high energy consumption equipment to create these bricks, and they have created many buildings using those bricks. And I went to Govardhan Eco Village in one of the peak winter seasons, like November, December, that time, and it was extremely cold outside. Of course, not compared to here, but it was extremely cold as far as Indian standards are concerned. But as soon as I just opened the door and entered that room, which is constructed with these bricks, which are made by devotees there itself, it was like a natural air conditioner system. you know. It was so warm, it was so soothing actually. It was not like these you know, artificial air conditioner systems which dry up our nostrils and all that. It was like, you know, very pleasant actually. And I also visited Govardhan village in the mid of summer, where it becomes extremely hot actually. At that time also, you enter these rooms, they become like, you know, like very nice air conditioned rooms. You don't have any issues of humidity or, you know, all these things. So I was very amazed. I was just thinking like, you know, how these are already there, and we said no to these things, and we are working so hard for something else. I think, yeah, that is true, Prabhu. Such model villages, not one. I mean, we want to see such things flourishing everywhere, every part of the world, so that people can understand that, you know, it is possible to live without too much dependent on these factories. Rather, we depend on nature, and you know, get the resources from nature. That will be a brilliant thing. I know one family who are in Chennai actually. They have constructed this eco house. Their house is an eco house actually. I think that is certified, you know, as the first building in the entire Asia to create or to use such you know, such technology to build a house. None of the things are you know, collected from unnatural things or factories or anything. They have a big house. It's not about, you know, it's not that they are living in a small place. I visited their house. That Mataji is a doctor. Her daughter is also a doctor. Her daughter is my sister's close friend actually. And her husband is a civil engineer. And when he came in contact with Prabhupada books, he got so inspired. Of course, he's not initiated yet, but he's a very inspired person actually. And he created, with his own ideas, he created this house, and it took some time for developing that. But he created it, and when I was talking to him, he said that you know, people don't know how to, you know, just depend on nature and live. And they think that when we depend on nature and leave all the modern things which are offered by the modern man, we have to live in poverty. That's what people think. We have to live in a very much inconvenience. That's what people think. But I wanted to show to the world that it is not like that. We can live with all extra modern amenities, but still it is possible to simply, you know, depend on nature. So you know, he constructed that house, and I was so surprised. I was looking at different parts of the house, and everything is very naturally created. Of course, after that, electricity and all these things had to be given, which are again not, you know, so naturally available. But then the construction of the house was so made so naturally actually. So thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for bringing that up. Anyone else has any other comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you so much. It was a really nice class. I was thinking how the flow of thoughts are going in your when you're speaking. So it was so nicely connected. And I was thinking when you mentioned about the yoga, Prabhu, so the international yoga. I mean, I was thinking actually people doesn't know what is the real self-interest, right? From that Bhagavatam.
Yes.
So I mean, even if the self-interest is also better, but the problem is that the whole thought process is wrong,
Yes.
right? So I was thinking, yeah, that is where it is creating problem.
Yeah.
I mean, even if they're thinking for real self, so it is going to be helpful for the, I mean, for them and for the society in general as well. But yeah, very nicely connected to a lot of points. The story I liked it. That what is that called?
Dung roller.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you very much. It's all the blessings of all Vaishnavas. Otherwise, I have no capacity to speak anything. Lord wanted to please all of you, so that's the reason I was able to speak something pleasing to all of you. And yeah, the modern yoga day, the yoga day which people are following, the main purpose is, you know, how can I increase my health, how can I increase my potency to, you know, sense enjoyment. So that is something very crazy actually. I mean, this is a perverted way of doing yoga. so that is true, Prabhu. Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. So if no one else has any, yes.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare
It
Krishna.
is very naturally flowing as our Lingraj Prabhu was saying. You know, it is very nice.
Thank you.
My thoughts, I was like we have to really appreciate Srila Prabhupada's being such a revolutionary.
Yeah.
I mean, don't go under this, giant industrialization scheme. I mean, at least I mean that. As Balram Prabhu pointed out, that Govardhan Eco Village, I also happened to visit. It was such a beautiful experience, something in nature. And I'm sure all these the ISKCON communities in Hungary and Belgium, and now they have in the Ukraine and all that. It will be such an eye opener for people, because they live simply with the cows and growing their own vegetables, everything. And so the Srila Prabhupada has done such a awakening your natural instincts.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank
Many
you.
communities are focusing on this natural living, as you
Yes.
mentioned about
Yes.
all other places.
Uh,
And I think that is the way to go ahead. I remember once His Grace Govinda Prabhu was mentioning this point that, in future, the whole world is going to look towards ISKCON, even not for spiritual knowledge or Bhagavad Gita. They are going to look towards ISKCON for getting their food. Because today we are simply removing all the farmlands and building big things, right?
yes.
So at one point there will be so much scarcity for food that we will be the only people who will be making food naturally.
Yes. Srila Prabhupada said it under that same verse you said, this sacrifice is essential, chanting for our rains and for our sustenance.
Yes.
People think away from the basic truths, then they are actually ruined civilization.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So no one else has any other comments. I think it is 8:07. We can close here. I again feel that I simply spoke something. I did not prepare much for this class. Not much. I did not prepare at all. So please forgive me if I spoke something wrong or anything which is not in line with Srila Prabhupada or our previous acharyas. I sincerely seek forgiveness for that. And I seek blessings of all the devotees assembled and those devotees who haven't assembled here, so that I can actually implement those which I am speaking here. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grandhara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.